exploring the Venice of America, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We don't want to brag, but oh yeah, we totally want to brag. We love our fine neck of the woods called South Florida, and we are proud to live here. There are at least 365 reasons, conservatively speaking, and one of them is our very own Venice. That's right, we don't have to cross the pond to get there. We have it right here, Fort Lauderdale, also widely known as the Venice of America. Today, I invite you to come along and explore the brightest jewel of the Broward County's crown. We will see it all, by car, air, and water. And along the way, I will share with you 5 fun facts you might have never heard about Fort Lauderdale. Let's go! Fort Lauderdale has a rich and diverse history going back to 1838. Even its name is rooted in this history. During the Second Seminole War, 3 major fortifications were built in the area, each named Fort Lauderdale after Army Major William Lauderdale. After the conflict ended, the forts were abandoned, but the name lived on. It is now that I should bring up fun fact number 1. Before we were known as Fort Lauderdale, we were first called Little River Settlement. It doesn't have quite the same ring, does it? Speaking of names, Fort Lauderdale goes by, we already mentioned the most prominent nickname, the Venice of America. But do you know the reason behind? That leads me to fact number 2. Fort Lauderdale enjoys over 300 miles of canals and channels, forming the intercoastal waterways. Going back to names Fort Lauderdale goes by, as luck should have it, there is another less prominent name, lurking from the city's infamous past. And that's our fact 3. Fort Lickerdale. Some people still refer to it much more often as Fort Lickerdale rather than Fort Lauderdale. In a joking tone, we might add for good measure. You might conclude that it must come from the infamous spring breaks when college kids poured into town and poured out, literally. Hence the name. Although quite fitting, this isn't the case. Watch this video to the end to hear the real story how Fort Lauderdale became known as Fort Lickerdale. Now back to bragging. Just a little. Broward County's signature city, Fort Lauderdale, boasts year-round sunshine and temperatures that average around 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet, here comes fun fact number 4. We once get snow. Yep, January 19, 1977 is the day that went down in history as the one time we witnessed snow. Sure, it quickly melted off, but that is fact 4. We had snow. Going back to bragging about our absolutely fabulous weather. Florida isn't called the Sunshine State for nothing, and we lay claim 3,000 hours of this dazzling sunlight per year. We must admit, we're pretty awesome. But it doesn't stop there. At the risk of sounding like an infomercial, but wait, there is more. Here it is. The enviable lifestyle. The lifestyle in Fort Lauderdale is laid back and relaxed. Most people don't take life too seriously when they live in Fort Lauderdale. The warm weather, beach, fun in the sun, along with reasonable employment prospects, make it easy enough for most people to carve out a pretty good life for themselves in this city. And here comes fun fact number 5. We have 23 incredible miles of beaches crammed up in 36 square miles of land. That's right, we're nearly 2/3 beach, baby!
Yeah, baby, yeah!
Speaking of beaches, did you know that 6 of our beaches are Blue Wave certified? That means these beaches pass strict environmental standards for cleanliness and sustainability. Want to visit one? Here is the list: Fort Lauderdale Beach, Dania Beach, Hollywood Beach, Lauderdale by the Sea, Deerfield Beach, and Pompano Beach. To wrap it all up, from downtown museums and theaters to Las Olas sophisticated dining and shopping, nightclubs and yachting, Fort Lauderdale has a lot going for it. This canal-filled city has always been a sought-after destination to call home, and during the pandemic, more than ever. If you want to see how this statement is backed up by facts and figures, here is the latest real estate market report providing this. I'll drop a link in the description below. Besides enviable lifestyle and gorgeous vistas throughout affluent neighborhoods, attracting boaters, golfers, and snowbirds seeking reprieve from harsh winters, Fort Lauderdale houses a diverse culture that is sure to spark much intrigue. If you want to live the chic urban beach lifestyle in upscale surroundings, combining luxury with down-to-earth simplicity, you will find Fort Lauderdale to be the perfect 10 and should be on top of your list when you're choosing a home. Unsurpassed location and amenity-rich lifestyle perfectly suited to the most discriminating taste. This is what you can expect to find here. And if you're still on the fence, wanting and planning to move to Florida, but you're not entirely familiar with our local markets, this may lead to wrong buying decisions. We're here. You will feel perfectly at home with us as your local expert guides. Kate Smith Group is your gateway to a richer life, your key to South Florida's finest neighborhoods and homes. Call, text, or email us and let's talk. We have a history in connecting extraordinary people and extraordinary properties in South Florida. We would love to extend a helping hand to you and your family to find your place on the map in a home that fits your life. Let us show you the way home. Thanks for joining me today and spending some time with me exploring our very own Venice, the city of Fort Lauderdale. As promised, are you ready to hear the real story how Fort Lauderdale became known as Fort Liquordale? Here it goes. The nickname Fort Liquordale goes back to 1920s, when America's prohibition was in full force. Luckily for the bootleggers and South Florida alcohol drinkers, there was a way to get around the ban: the Bahamas. At that time, the Bahamas were under British rule, and the Brits would never ever dream of banning alcohol. Since the Bahamas were less than 100 miles away and on the ocean, the location of Fort Lauderdale was pretty convenient. The ideal place for importing and smuggling illegal booze, bootlegging, rum running, and all. This all came to a screeching halt after a few rum raids. Two stories made the big headlines, leading to Fort Lauderdale being referred to as Fort Liquordale. One was the case about James Horace Alderman, who made his living smuggling booze to and from Florida and the Bahamas. One Sunday afternoon, in August of 1927, Alderman and another smuggler were caught by the Coast Guard with their boat loaded with booze. Although Alderman shot and killed the three-man crew of the cutter 249, him and his partner were caught, stood trial, then Alderman was finally sentenced to death. The hanging took place on August 17, 1929 on Fort Lauderdale Beach. In 1927 again, Broward Sheriff Paul Grant and his deputies were all arrested in a rum raid along with Assistant Chief of Police and his men. The case made front-page headlines and caused a media sensation at the time. Although the officers were acquitted at trial due to the infamous raids, Fort Lauderdale quickly became Fort Lickerdale. Now you know. And if you want to know more about the best places to make your home in South Florida, here is a playlist I made for you. Let's go watch it next.